All right. Hello again, there, friends. This is our final close reading in Psalms, and I have to admit that I am a little bit sad that I'm not going to be submitting these any longer for a good critical review from our instructor as well as from the awesome folks that I've got to meet and to know here online in the class. I'm hoping, and I'm going to do my very best to continue doing something similar to this through my blog that I have and posting it online. But I'm still sad that I have to see this go. I enjoyed seeing everyone else's posted and giving my feedback, and then any of the feedback that I received, I'd always use it to grow and try and get better and see more than I see right now. So let's jump right into this one, though. I have Psalms 56. Psalm 56 is what I've chosen as my final close reading for the psalm. This is a psalm that is by David. It was written or composed by him while he was on the run, as he was for a large part of his life. But he was actually in the city of Gath, or the kingdom of Gath, as they did have a king, which was controlled by the Philistines at the time when he wrote this. And so he was more than likely, from what I was able to find out through a little research and background, more than likely he was in prison when this happened, but he was actually in Gath because he was running away from Absalom. The general time period was considered to be 1023 BC. So he had been king of Israel for quite some time, but he was on the run as king, trying to get away from Absalom. He ran to the Philistines just because he needed somewhere to go. It was kind of one of those stuck between a rock and a hard place type of situations, where he could allow himself to be captured by Absalom and very, very likely be killed, or run to the Philistines where he may only be imprisoned, which is essentially what happened. To see a little bit of the background on this and the general activity that was going on at the time, you can actually look at 1 Samuel chapter 21. It's actually 21 verse 10, kind of talks about what was happening at the time he wrote the psalm, or what the psalm is referring to. And then, of course, you can go back in the chapter in verses 1 through 9 and read more about why he ran to Gath, why he ran away to the Philistines. But that was the general time period and activities that were going on for David and why he wrote this. The literary context of the psalm is sandwiched in between two other laments, which Psalm 56 is a lament. 55 and 57 are also laments, and all kind of focusing on the same type of problem, David being attacked. All three psalms talk about his enemies coming after him. Psalm 55 and 56 are both directed at actual enemies outside of David's life, outside of his sphere of influence, that were attacking him at the time, or that he felt trapped by, as in when he was in prison in Gath. Psalms 57 actually refers to David being attacked by his own people. 57 was written in reference to when David allowed Saul to live. When he had the opportunity to kill him and he didn't kill him, his own people actually attacked him and attacked his choice for allowing Saul to live, because of course they knew, just as David knew, that Saul would have killed him if he had the chance. And so that's where those psalms are. That's where 56 is, in between a group of psalms of lament. the structure of this psalm, if we look at actually verse 1, or depending on what translation of the Bible you have, this is either verse 1 or simply description of the psalm. It says, "For the choir director, a psalm of David regarding the time the Philistines seized him in Gath, to be sung." So we know it's an actual song, not just a psalm. "To be sung to the tune of Dove on Distant Oaks." And I looked everywhere to find out what this was, and apparently nobody knows what this song is. There's no record of what the tune was or what it sounded like. There are a couple of current songs or present day songs with that title, and they are Christian in their theme from what I was able to look through, and I listened to one or two of them. There are current present day songs called Dove on Distant Oaks, but I highly doubt that that's what David was referring to when he wrote that down 3,000 years ago. Which that is, again, is a very likely reason why we just don't have that song, or there's no record of what it sounded like, because it was a song from so long ago. But I find it interesting that David chose to, or if not him, then whoever came through and edited this book after him, before it was canonized and it was made the official Hebrew Bible. I find it interesting that that person saw a link, or David, either David had that song on his mind when he wrote these words down, or the person who came through and edited and put the psalm together, the entire book together, saw a link between David's words and that song, or found a way to put it to that tune, because I think, and as we get into the psalm, it is a psalm that can apply to anybody's life, that anyone should be able to connect with it and get something from it that'll help them through tough times in their lives. But when we look at the structure of the psalm, as we know now, it's meant to be sung as a song. Looking at the way it's broken down, it is actually a petition to God by David, and there are two parts to it. We see verses 1 through 4 are one lament that goes from petition to confidence in God, and then verses 5 through 13 that go back to a lament, and then up to the confidence that David has in God. So it begins with, "O God, have mercy on me, for people are hounding me. My foes attack me all day long. I am constantly hounded by those who slander me, and many are boldly attacking me. But when I am afraid, I will put my trust in you. I praise God for what he has promised. I trust in God, so why should I be afraid? What can mere mortals do to me?" And so he's gone from, "God have mercy on me, people are hounding me, I'm afraid, I'm scared, I need help." He's afraid, he's afraid for his life. And he goes from that in only 4 verses to, "What can mere mortals do to me?" So it's almost as if he is reassured, like some of the Psalms we've talked about, and all the laments really, that David or the psalmist comes to God with a problem that is man-made, a problem that applies to us on earth, and we feel is something that we can't get through, that we're not going to be able to make it. And in reality, that really is the case. We can't fix that problem. We need supernatural help. And David, once again, he finds himself going to God and just begging for that help, that he cannot get through the problems that he has. He cannot find a solution to them. He cannot save himself, and no one else can save him. But when he trusts in God, what can mere mortals do to him? And then verses 5 through 13 go back to this same issue again. The only change is, instead of physically attacking him, now his enemies have gone after his character. They're always twisting what I say. They spend their days plotting to harm me. They come together to spy on me and watch my every step. eager to kill me. Don't let them get away with their wickedness. In your anger, O God, bring them down. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. My enemies will retreat when I call to you for help. This I know, God is on my side. And then it goes into the last 3 or 4 verses where David praises God and, of course, returns to that confidence that he has. But I found that was interesting, the way there's kind of a repetition there of lament, of asking God for help and complaining to God that enemies were there attacking him, and then swiftly, within just a few verses, turned into that confidence in God once again. What really stands out to me, I guess, as far as the poetic elements of this, are that repetition, that way that David doesn't really use the repetition that we've talked about in this class of repeating the same words over and over again, but he's repeating feelings. He's petitioning God for help, and then understanding the confidence that he has in God was always there and is there now. And then again, petitioning God for another kind of help with his enemies, and then understanding that God is always there and thanking him in advance for what's going to happen. I don't notice a lot of, even though this is meant to be a song, I don't notice a lot of the rhythm and rhyme that you would expect from a song. Perhaps in the Hebrew, I wasn't able to find a MP3 or a audio file of this particular psalm to listen to it in Hebrew like I could some of the others. So there could be maybe some rhyme and rhythm to it when it's being spoken in the Hebrew language, but reading it out loud and reading through it, looking at it in English, I don't see those type of poetic elements. What I do recognize, like I said, is the repetition of issues and problems being brought to God, and that immediate almost recognition of God being there. God is going to fix this. God is going to help me, and I'm thanking him and praising him for it already. As far as the new, and I'm going to kind of jump away from going on to the parallels. What really, just to talk about what really stood out to me, and what I have here as what stood out to me in this psalm, is verse 9, the second part of verse 9. By this I will know that God is for me. And those words make me think of one in Hebrews, where Paul, or whoever the writer of Hebrews is, presumably Paul, writes about the running the race, and knowing that we're running that race with our eyes fixed on Jesus, and because Jesus is for us, that God, knowing that God is for us, is like us running that race. It's like that. It's like the runner in a marathon, or the runner in any type of competitive race, who has their father or their mother or their best friend or wife or husband, whoever it is, they're on the sidelines cheering them on. And you're at the last turn, you're on the last stretch, you're at the last quarter mile, whatever it might be, and you look up and you're just done. You can't get to that finish line. And I've been there before. I've run a couple marathons when I lived in Alaska, and you do, after you've gone 26 and a half miles, or 26.1 miles, and you've got 0.1 mile to go, sometimes you just don't have that juice to get there. But then you look up and you see your friend, your wife, your girlfriend, your father, mother, whoever it might be, standing there at the finish line, and you feel this surge, and you know that they're there for you. You see them cheering you on. You hear them encouraging you. to get there to that finish line, and you feel this burst of energy that gets you across that line before you collapse and have to be resuscitated sometimes, or just get that refreshing drink that brings you back. But knowing that they are there, knowing that they are for you, is what really gets you through that. And that's where this psalm really hit home with me, is just having that picture of God, my Father, standing at the end of that race, at that finish line, cheering me on, and knowing that I can get there because He's for me. And that kind of goes into where the parallels are in this, and I think that this particular psalm and what it talks about parallels with that section in Hebrews. It's Hebrews 12, I think verses 1 through 3. But it talks about that and I'll just read them here where I have it. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before Him, He endured the cross, scorning its shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider Him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. That is our God that's for us. And it just, that's what speaks to me with this psalm, is knowing that our God is for us. The second part in here, and it's actually at the beginning of this section here, is verses 3 and 4. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise. In God I trust and am not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? And it just echoes back that if God is for me, who can be against me? What can a mere mortal do to me when I have a God who has given me eternal life? A God that has promised to always be for me no matter what. A God that I can never be taken away from. No one can ever snatch me away from His hand. He will always be with me, and I will always be with Him. These are just the important parts of this that have stood out to me so much. For me, the modern day application of this psalm is actually very applicable for the situation that I'm in right now. I've been given an opportunity to take the next step in my spiritual growth and the responsibilities that I have within the church, and it comes with giving up something that I have dreamed about and wanted to be a part of for several years. But in order to take this next step where I feel God is leading me, I have to let go of something that, while there is a kingdom impact in it, it's not within the path that God has set before me. And even though I know that, I can say that out loud, it's so much more difficult for me to take that next step, for me to let go of that dream that I had. But as I read this psalm, as it really has sunk into me over the last few days, I have to remember that really, what can mere mortals do? I may receive some backlash. I may receive complaints or some disgruntlement from fellow employees. But at the end of the day, when God has set out a path before me and I see that is the path that He wants me to take, nothing that man can say or do is going to make me feel that I made the wrong decision. The only wrong decision that I could make is by giving in to those enemies that are hounding me, giving in to those enemies who are twisting what I say or plotting against me, instead of standing on the faith that I have in God and trusting that He has my best interest, that the plans He has for me are plans for good, that plans that will make me prosper, and plans that will push me further down that path that He has for me, to make true kingdom differences and bring, as the professor in our other class has talked about with my theology class, is make me one of those points on earth where heaven and earth connect, where they overlap and interlock with each other. So that's my viewpoints on here. That's my close reading for Psalm 56. Again, I have thoroughly enjoyed this class and loved getting to know each and every one of you. I hope that this psalm is able to connect with you in some way and make an impact as it has in my life. Thanks.